have you.
Thank you for having me.
You're more than welcome. We've done some interviews before with you, and the more I talk to you, the more I learn. One of the great things we talked about increasing your guys' growth in your business. You guys are kind of like us in a way. You've got family-owned business, 5 employees. We have 9 employees, same thing relative. But you guys have grown over 400% in over a year, which is phenomenal. You know what I mean? So talk to us a little bit about that. I know it's a vague question, but let us know.
So, like you mentioned, family-owned business. They've been in business for 20 years. I've been with the company for 6.
Okay.
And a lot of our growth has really come from, we can talk about the people in the right jobs, and I think a lot of companies try to do that, but we've really been able to tap into our existing client base and offer them more variety of products than we used to be able to. I've got a couple of owners who aren't afraid to look at what's coming up next. We're in an industry, fortunately, that is still growing and is still getting better. And we're always kind of looking at, okay, where are we going to be a year down the line? Where are we going to be 3 years down the line? And for them to be able to pull the trigger on new technology, for them to have that foresight, has really helped us in a big way, where we're able to offer more, just a bigger variety of products other than, just your standard vinyl signage. Now that we have the UV especially, it's been just a much bigger opportunity for us to supply them with more.
Yeah, remember you mentioned before too, the fear of trying something new, right?
Yeah, it's easy to get stagnant doing what you're doing if you're doing it well, but kind of making that leap to see what's going on next, what the new technology is, what the new print methods are, and how design and everything relates into that with installation. It's been a big thing for us.
What about your turnaround time? I know you talked about that. You've gone.
Yeah, I mean, we were doing a few projects a day. We can't keep the project board full enough anymore. With bringing in the UV technology, we also have a CNC router on site.
Wow. So that's kind of the CNC router is kind of one of the pieces of equipment that you use to achieve that, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We're able to work back and forth between our printers and our CNC router to achieve the look that we're trying to go for, and it's really made our turnaround times from a 2-week turnaround into sometimes a 2-hour turnaround, depending on the deadlines for the job or what we're trying to do and what we're trying to be.
Now that Dan's gone, I can ask you, Joe, real quick. The sign, seriously, the sign right here. Can you give us, in a nutshell, minute and a half, how did you make the sign?
Okay, so it's out of a 3/4-inch black PVC substrate.
Yep.
That was a scrap sheet of the substrate I had that we initially took to the CNC router to route out the initial outside shape. We then took that shape to the flatbed UV.
So that was the shape black, already cut out the outside to the UV flatbed printer, okay?
Yep, correct. Printed a template on the UV to match that shape. Did all of our white coverage first.
Okay.
And then did another layer of white under just where the orange colors are.
So it pops more.
So that orange is raised a little bit.
Yep, I can feel it raised, yep.
And then brought that back to the CNC router to do all of the engraving. So we've got this kind of push and pull technique between a raised image and an indented lettering.
Right. So when you see that too, it's like I told you, I mean, that's a really nice dimensional, tangible sign.
Yeah.
And you want to talk about increasing your revenue, which probably is one reason why you have a 400% growth, because you do the standard signs, and I say standard, but your normal signs that sign companies produce, but this is completely, totally different.
Yeah, it's a specialty item for sure, and stuff like this is what keeps the business interesting. It's what keeps my gears turning of the capabilities that we're able to have.
And we talked about earlier, and I usually ask you on down the road, but as a designer, we'll talk about you're wearing a lot of different hats in a few minutes, but this allows your design capabilities to completely open back up too, right? So it's probably made you even a better designer. So the technology that you have here actually changes the way you design.
100%. You go from the 2-dimensional world of looking something on a screen to the 3-dimensional world of being able to have that raised effect or that indented effect that a lot of designers really don't have the opportunity to work with and manipulate.
Very cool, very cool. So how did you find your customers to achieve so much growth? I know it's kind of a vague question, but go ahead, touch on that.
So we do have new customers that come in, but the primary of our clientele is people who are already buying signage from us. And they were having to go to other places to find some of the more upscale showstopper pieces, like a second surface acrylic or a routed piece. And now that we're able to bring all of that in-house and, you know, have that kind of control from a branding perspective for all of our customers is so big, because now we're able to just kind of keep the consistency throughout all those channels.
Right.
So it's not necessarily about us going and finding new customers, but just offering more to our existing customers, which leads into new customers. So it all kind of works together.
Fantastic. So previous to doing these interviews, we had mock interviews. You always wore a hat,
Yep.
right? Now you're not wearing a hat,
Right.
but you wear multiple hats
Yeah.
at the office. So not only are you a designer, you're making sure the prints are coming out. You're doing the test prints. You're doing the production. Actually making a lot of these signs as well. So that's one reason why Dallas and I call it being dangerous, but you guys are successful because you understand the end result as a designer.
Right.
You're not in a room just designing. You can see the full spectrum from A to Z, which is very important. So tell us how wearing different hats kind of helps you and some things that you learned and that you work on.
I mean, I think, and it's something I didn't really have a perspective on until I got into the industry,
Right.
was being able to get out from behind the computer and really see things in a more tangible sense. Put your hands on some signage, put your hands on vehicles, because you know better than most. You can design something flat, but if it doesn't cover the fender properly, or if it doesn't conform to the shape that you're looking for,
Right.
you know, those are things we have to think about every day. I have a new part-time designer who I've been training up the past few months, and one of the things I've really been expressing to her is, you know, we can make cool things all day long. We can make things look great, but if it can't be installed, then that design is a failure.
Right.
So we design for installation first and make it look good second.
So you go there and work your way backwards. So
Exactly.
definitely making sure things are feasible.
Absolutely.
So real quick question about this piece that we asked you about. So if we had printed that white with our UV flatbed printer, as you see, and then laid the orange on top of it, instead of laying another layer of white behind that, would that orange look a different color? Or look pretty close?
It would look fairly close.
Okay.
You do get a little bit more of like that solid white with the extra layer of white. I didn't necessarily do it for the color. I just wanted to have that raised
Right.
effect.
So the reason why I ask you that, the reason why I ask you that, you don't know that unless you know how the printer works.
100%.
So as you as a designer, you can go back and go, man, if we do this one extra step, I can get this result. That way, when you go back and design your next customer project, you know what's going on. And that's why I said you just keep becoming more dangerous and dangerous.
Absolutely.
What role does your Roland reseller play in all this? Because I know you guys have a great relationship with your Roland reseller as well as we do. So talk a little bit about that.
It's one of the more important relationships we have with our vendors is with our reseller. You know, they, for example, they don't get to necessarily use the UV flatbed every single day.
Right,
you know?
right.
So we're able to have a really open line of communication with our reseller. For me, they're a text message away. They're a simple phone call away if I have a simple question or if I have some sort of, you know, system or mechanical issue I'm trying to resolve. You know, just having that open line for support, and you know, and they also understand our line of the business where we have to meet deadlines, we have to do things in a certain amount of time. Timing is so huge in this industry that they're able to jump on things for us and get us back up and running if need be. You know, and our productivity doesn't suffer.
Right. The other thing I think you mentioned about it, you know, even though you look at this 1-ton printer,
Yeah.
right, and you get a little, the word, that's, I guess, fearful a little bit. How do I work this? You're still running off VersaWorks. You're familiar with the Roland product. So you said it was a pretty seamless transition. So it wasn't, even though they took it, 2 days to get you trained,
Yeah.
you were up and running fairly quickly.
Yeah, it was a 2-day training period, and it's like, here's the keys to the car, go ahead and start driving. But yeah, you know, with us working with Roland products for so long prior to having the UV, you know, it was extremely seamless. And you're absolutely right. On the outside, this is an intimidating machine.
Right.
But once you figure out the intricacies, and you know, if you know how to run one Roland machine, you can almost run all of them.
Right.
So, you know,
That's a very good point.
very small details to kind of account for.
And it's very hard, we talked earlier about how to set yourself apart from your competition, especially with sign shops. I mean, Louisville, Kentucky, we're from, it's not gigantic, but I remember the last time we checked, there was over 90 sign shops. You know, whether it's a small shop or a big shop or someone cutting vinyl out of their garage or, you know, an office, a building with 20, 30 employees. But, you know, what makes a sign company different? And I think with the technology that you guys have brought in and different types of signage like this, it kind of sets you apart. I think it's the only reason you really can. The hard part is realizing and letting the customer know what you can do.
Right. And, you know, we don't sell anything that we can't do well.
Right. That's a great tip, a great piece of advice.
Yeah, no, and even if we have to outsource something or we're relying on an outside source, you know, we have a good relationship with those folks also to know exactly what we're getting as a result. So, you know, between us doing as many things as, you know, we do as much as we can in-house, everybody's got to outsource something every now and then.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But for me too, as well as you know, is even testing or samples, you know, it's kind of hard to show someone this sign without even having a sample or showing them what thickness, what shape, what color.
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
Talked earlier too. What's your favorite substrate to print right now on that flatbed?
I talked about it with a couple people. I really like brushed ACM. I really like brushed diamond. And I like doing it on the UV for the textural difference.
Right.
That material comes in and it looks like a brushed aluminum. It's nice and shiny.
It's like a DeLorean door.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And then once you get that UV ink cured in on top of it, which almost has a matte finish to it,
yeah.
You've got that difference in texture. You've got that difference in appearance. And it's really impressive from the outside looking in.
But it is, and you're routing that as well too. So you're either doing a square sign, rounded corners, or you can coming in with a cool contour cut.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's really cool. So what advice for some of us hanging out here can you give us as wrap shop owners or sign shops looking for ways to grow? I know a lot of it's common sense, but we want to hear from someone that's grown over 400% in 1 year.
You know, I touched on, you know, just really being able to push the things that we really do well, but also not, you know, being necessarily afraid of going out and trying something new or talking to somebody, getting their opinion on, you know, what the new technology is going to be. You know, like I mentioned before, it's easy to kind of get into that groove and keep doing what you're doing, which is fantastic. But at the same time, this industry has so much more to offer, and it's only getting better.
It's fantastic. Does anybody have any questions out here for Mr. James Atwood? Anybody? Not everyone raise your hand at the same time. I want to make sure that we get enough participation. If you want to ask him any questions after this, feel free to do so. Man, and also too, after this interview, James is going to be over here by the flatbed. So if you guys have any questions about it? Yes, Joe, thank you.
What application outside the box did you end up doing that you never thought you would do with the flatbed?
So he asked about what application out of the box that you did and you never thought you would do. Or are you allowed to say?
No, I'm allowed to say it. There's a lot of things I hadn't really thought about. You know, when somebody says, "Hey, I have 500 golf balls I need before Friday," you know, that's an interesting one. And with having the router also to kind of go along with that, we're able to get it measured up right, create a nice jig for it so it prints perfectly off of that UV printer. You know, I think one of the understated things about the UV is the height. Having that 6-inch gap where you can throw a cornhole board, for example, golf balls. We've done travel mugs. You know, a lot of those promotional materials that we would normally have to outsource, we just create jigs for them right on the spot and print them right there in house. It's really nice.
That's really cool. And we've got a smaller unit coming soon from Roland, but you know, I keep talking about this, and I keep thinking flat boards, trade shows, cool signs, full print. But I forget that we're doing lunch boxes, we're doing golf balls, we're doing
phone cases.
I had someone ask me, "Can you do a toilet seat?" And I said, "If it's not 4 inches, we probably can."
I tell everybody.
I don't know why you would, but
I tell everybody if it's flat and level, I'll give it a shot.
Right? Absolutely. Absolutely. James, I can't thank you enough for your time coming out here to Las Vegas, spending your time with us. I know it's difficult to get away from your business. I've learned a lot from you. Much respect to you and what you guys do. I look forward to following you guys some more. Mr. James Atwood, everybody give a round of applause for Mr. James. Thanks again. We'll be hanging out here, so if anybody has any questions about the flatbed, don't hesitate to go over there and talk to him. It's kind of cool to actually hear an end user talk to another end user. I think that's a good relationship, and maybe we should start doing more of that. So, James, thanks again, buddy.
Thanks, man.
Pleasure, man.
Appreciate it.
I mean, I shouldn't say that.